So give yourselves a woo. Woo! Oh, y'all are good. But you gotta get the hands going too. So, okay, will you do it again? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Woo!
So, all right. Woohoo! Good morning. How are you, EmmaLou?
I'm doing great. Delinda, it's always great to be with you.
Well, you are so sweet. I appreciate that. And what I love about the StreamYard platform is that we can see and respond to the comments as they happen. So I think that's great. So good morning, Miss Kathy Weaver. Always great to see you. Thanks for coming on. I know you didn't want to miss Miss EmmaLou. She's like, EmmaLou, it is just such a pleasure to have you. I love what you do, how you help families. And you have such a great heart. So all of you all need to know EmmaLou. We put her, I think you can see it matter of fact, I'm going to put it right here. There we go. So if you want to connect with her as we go through this morning, just want you to have that chance to do that. So on her LinkedIn page has everything you need to know, right? Or at least enough so that you're going to want to have a one-on-one and reach out to her. So EmmaLou, tell us a little bit, just like, where do you live? I know, of course, but just a little bit about where you live and whatever you want to say.
Well, I am really happy because I get to live by the Rocky Mountains in Ogden, Utah, and I have this just off the front porch of my house, this glorious view of Ben Lomond Peak, which is one of the highest peaks in this locality. And I used to teach science, so I'm fascinated and with the fact that geologists around the world come to Utah because we have rocks in our mountains, that the history of this area is written in those mountains. And I love tracking the snow melt. There have been some years the snow was all melted by now, but we had a heavy snowfall, and it's just fascinating to watch that. So I love the mountains.
That is great. And I'm hoping, we down here in Vegas, don't we get some of that runoff? Because like we need water. When you start melting, do we get some water from that?
Yeah, we will be happy to send some your way. We have ample this year. We've been able to avoid flooding. Fortunately, the snow didn't melt all at once. I remember the year that it did, and our major streets turned into rivers.
Oh, wow.
So it's been melting slower this year. So we've been sending it off. Our lakes are all full. I'm quite sure we'll be sending some your way. Happy to share.
Oh, love that. Love that. And we need some share. So, that is great. So how long have you lived there?
Well, I've lived here most of my adult life. I actually grew up in Maryland.
Oh.
But I married a man from Utah. He was stationed there with the military. And when he finished his enlistment, he brought me to his home state. And I fell in love with the mountains. I have loved living here. It's been a good place to we raised our family here.
And you just celebrated an anniversary, right?
Yes, we just celebrated our golden 50 years.
Woo, woo, woo. That is so amazing. It really just is amazing.
And it went by so fast. Yes, we feel blessed.
Yeah, I remember my mother always saying about how time goes faster as you get older, and I'm thinking, oh, that can't be, but that actually is. I can't figure out what it is, why it feels that it goes so much faster. Maybe because we just have so much more going on. Although when my kids were little, it did seem like the time went slow. You know, when I was in the middle of the whole toddler thing, it's like, will this day ever end? But at the same time, now that I look back, it's like they're both in their 40s, and how did that happen? I don't know.
My theory is that the days go by slowly, but the years pass rapidly.
Yeah, I think there's real truth in that. It sure seems that way. So, well, everybody, as you know, if you've been watching the show for a while, I love it when you check in and say hello and say where you are. Miss Kathy, I'm going to be heading to Overland Park here on Thursday morning so that we can find a house. We're getting ready to close here in about 10 days. So it's like, it'd be nice now if we could find a place to move to. So that's always nice. So I'll be heading that way, and I can't wait to get back that direction and see you, do a little quick hello. It'll be a quick trip, but in any case, that is where we are. Again, just a little FYI for those of y'all that may not know. We put our house on the market thinking it was going to take our usual. Matter of fact, I didn't believe it was going to sell. It's like, okay, we've tried this 2 other times. It didn't sell. I got so tired of having the house perfect, for people to see it. And it sold in 5 days. It's like, oh my gosh. And I keep thinking it's not real, except if you walk through my house, it's packed full of boxes. I mean, I could be gone next week, truthfully. We're really doing well on the packing, so it's no big deal. But in any case, we're heading to the Kansas City area. Not sure where that'll be, and I look forward to seeing everybody back there. So that is what's going on here. And just want to invite y'all to continue to stay connected to Fun Fearless Female, because, we are just better together, us women. And EmmaLou, I have just loved through this last year, you just made so many great posts in our Fun Fearless female group. It's just been so nice how you share so openly with people. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing. Yo, I want her to talk more this morning because she has so much to share and can really help us, I think, with a variety of things. But we're talking about emotions this morning. So I'm going to let her lead the way. But how are emotions? I don't know. Maybe that's sort of what causes all the drama in the house. Would that be true?
Yes. I will admit, when I was a young mother in my 20s, maybe even into my 30s, I seriously wished I could just have my emotions surgically removed. Is this possible? I felt my emotions just get me in trouble. They embarrass me. I wasn't being the kind of mother I wanted to be. I wanted to be so calm and patient and loving. And it just seemed like just the littlest things would set me off. I would set a firm resolve every morning. I would say, I am not going to lose my temper today. Well, I learned later that, our mind doesn't understand negatives. All my mind heard was lose my temper today. And that's exactly what I did.
Oh.
I never gave up on it. I thought, okay, I did better today. I'll do even better tomorrow. Or, and I would think of ways I could prevent, a blow up, like making sure if it happened because I was trying to get everybody out the door on time, what are some ways I can prepare further in advance? I did that. But it wasn't until, unfortunately, until the children were grown, that I learned to understand my emotions. I read the book Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. There have been several books written on emotions. And first of all, there are no bad emotions. Emotions are just energy in motion. And we can use that energy. And I would feel so, I tried to overcome anger. I thought, I do not ever want to be angry. And, but anger, if you think about it, anger freed the slaves. Anger got women the vote. Anger motivates you to take action. Now you choose what action you take. You can join a mob and start throwing bricks, or you can become active in a campaign to email your elected officials, to get information out, to inform voters. You choose what you do with that anger. The anger itself isn't the problem. It's what you're choosing to do with it, how you're choosing to respond.
Wow. I love that. I don't know that I don't know that I've heard it said just that way. I love how you phrase that, because we do tend to think that anger is bad. I mean, that is.
Yeah. A lady does not get angry,
Right. And the whole, all of those things, probably all of the big causes that have happened through history were because people were upset or they were angry at the injustice, maybe that was coming along, like you were saying. But that powerful phrase, "It is our choice what we do with the anger," so that is great. And you do, you help families, right, when there's anger issues and stuff going on, figuring out how to best use those emotions. Is that part of what you do, right?
Yes, yes. The most One of the most profound thoughts I got out of this book by Daniel Goleman, um, he relates a number of programs that have been started in schools to help children learn to manage their emotions. And he made the statement that the most effective, the best way for children is to be raised by emotionally intelligent parents. And if you think about it, isn't our example the most powerful teacher our children have?
Yeah.
Especially when they're younger, they want to be with us, they want to be like us, they want to do what we're doing. So if we're modeling and we're managing our emotions and talking about them, you know, would you admit that there are some emotions you're reluctant to admit that you're experiencing? I mean, who wants to admit that they're feeling insecure or jealous?
Right. Right.
And quite often, anger becomes the secondary emotion. It's much more acceptable to be angry than it is to admit, I'm feeling really threatened right now, or even I'm feeling afraid.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed this, I was a high school teacher for years, and I noticed this with students. The student who is struggling with a learning disability and is being asked to read out loud, it is much more comfortable to slam the book down and storm out of the room than to admit that he's having trouble reading.
Oh, right.
And I've also noticed a tricky thing with anger. We can become addicted to it because when we're angry, those adrenaline's pumping through our bodies. We're feeling big. We're feeling puffed up. People are intimidated. They're afraid to make us angry, and it can give us a false sense of power. It's easy to become addicted to it. You
Oh,
may mothers it's easy to start yelling at your kids because it's one way to immediately get their attention. The danger is in the long-term effects.
mm-hmm.
It eats at that relationship, that bond. It destroys trust. So it's understanding these. First of all, you need to be able to recognize it and be honest enough to admit, right now I'm afraid, right now I feel insecure, and to acknowledge. And then once you've accepted, yes, this is the way I'm feeling, when you try to resist an emotion, it becomes more intense. When you acknowledge it, you accept it, you sit with it, you can quickly find the solution. Like sadness. We don't want to be sad. We tell our children don't cry. But sadness helps you figure out what needs to change. If you can start thinking, okay, what is this emotion telling me? Maybe I need to set boundaries. Maybe I need to learn how to say no.
That's a big one.
Yeah. Yes. You could spend a whole show on that one, couldn't you, Delinda?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Emily, what do you suggest? I'm When I was being raised, my mother always took the stance of she's the mother, she had to be perfect. Okay. She never, she really didn't express much authentic emotion because I know now the reason, because she felt like that was her job as the mother to always be the strong one, to never let down. And I have some of those qualities myself, what are, well, qualities or not, whichever way you want, characteristics, I guess. Um, but I tried with my kids to acknowledge it. I mean, to really just say, this is a little scary here. Not to ever do it to a point to frighten them, but to also to try to let them know that I'm a real person and that I feel some of those things. How are some ways that you suggest we do that? Because I know we have some young moms out there, my daughter included. She often watches the show, of how to be real at the same time keep our role as parent. I think that's a fine line sometimes.
It is huge. I've seen too often those situations where the parents abdicated that. The child had to become the parent, had to take over and make decisions and take care of things. And of course, that is damaging. The best, greatest, give your children the gift of a childhood. Let them enjoy that childhood. Take the responsibility, be the adult. But I loved what you said. Just admitting. Now, it sounds counterintuitive, especially when our children are teenagers. We feel like we've got to show up in this armor without a single flaw. And the reverse is true. They see through it immediately.
True.
We lose their respect when we try to be something we're not. They will actually, it will endear us to them. They will feel more respect for us when we can admit, I'm a little worried. And then we add, the opposite of fear is faith. So then we add our faith. But I'm confident we can get through this. Let's say a prayer. And I think you hit it right there. Is, to be honest, we also, as painful as it may sound, need to be prepared to admit that we could be wrong.
Mm.
And
But we're supposed to know everything.
Yes, I know. But if we listen to our children, first of all, just listening to them, actively listening, not interrupting them, not trying to do something else, not planning your response while they're talking, but truly listening to understand their concerns. Obviously they feel validated, but it establishes some trust. They're more likely to listen to us. And we can get through this emotionally painful situation, whatever it is. Sometimes we need to know that when we have an immediate emotional outburst, we shut down communication. They may decide, not going to tell her anything uncomfortable again.
Right.
So being honest and admitting, not that you're asking them to take charge, but you're saying, I understand. I'm a little fearful as well. But again, bring in that faith.
I do think you're absolutely right. I think that when they see, and it's not just in our families, I think in everything we do, whether it's in business or other relationships, when people see us walking through certain things, it doesn't matter what we say. They're watching what we do. And certainly that's what our kids are doing too. And if they see that, how we handle, have faith, God's in charge of this. I don't know what the answer is, but we're going to walk this together, and kind of that bonding us, making that bond stronger. We're going to do this together. We're a family. We can manage this, even though they may not at the moment want to be part of the family. Because there's this time too, it's like, I don't want to be part of this family.
They go through that phase. Yeah. And another emotion is, for example, you have a child who came in late after curfew. You were worried about them. I don't think there's anything wrong with frankly admitting, I was so afraid for you, and letting them see the tears in your eyes, because you feel emotions because you care about them. If you were totally deadpan, they would think, Mom doesn't care what happens to me.
Good point. And there's always going to be those times when they've like say curfew's a great one of those for sure, because we're always watching,
Oh,
for
we're
them
always
to come
trying to
in.
push that boundary.
Always, always. And in our house, Bill was the one that was always up with the kids because he's the early riser. But I was the one that always waited up for the kids because I usually stay up late. So they weren't surprised when I was up because that's just my role in the family. And I still do that. I still stay up late. Not as late that I used to, not 12 or 1. Now it's like 11 is late. But in those times, and so they couldn't really sneak in because I was always up. So I saw it. And sometimes it's just hard I think as a parent, one of the hardest things is being true to what you said. If you
Yes.
set the boundary and they're 5 minutes late, it's like, are you going to stick to what you said? Are you going to acknowledge it? Sometimes it's just so much easier to let it roll. It's like, oh, what's 5 minutes? But next time it'll be 10 minutes. That's What do you think about that as far as the boundaries are really important, aren't they?
They are. They are. Now, the listening is important too. And understanding, was there an extenuating circumstance? Did something really happen? And even so, you can say, I understand. How can we make sure that doesn't happen next time?
Ooh, I love that. That's a great one.
And, being understanding, but still clear, and clear as to why the curfew has been set. Now, ideally, teenagers are much more cooperative when they've had buy-in, when they've been part of the discussion on let's establish the curfew. But I think it's important to explain why, why you're concerned about their well-being, why it's important to you that they get, why it matters. They need to understand that.
Like as opposed to because I said so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just these are my concerns.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
being willing to listen to their concerns and validate them, but reminding them I'm the adult. I love and care and respect you deeply, but I'm just aware of the science that your brain is not cognitively developed until you're in your mid 20s. So there are some things I'm going to decide because until you're ready, there's that delicate, children develop at different rates, but definitely the structure needs to be clear. Children need to understand what's expected of them and what they can expect from you. And consistency. Oh, you want to have problems with a child, don't, be inconsistent. Sometimes they get punished for being late. Sometimes it's no big deal. It's the consistency is very important.
I can see where that really would be. And sometimes that is one of the harder parts of being a parent is doing that, being consistent, because sometimes
We
sometimes
get
we're just
tired.
tired and we just don't want to deal with it. Right. Oh gosh. And
And we're human, and they know that. Now, another thing with anger, I think it's a mistake to try to resolve an issue while you're still angry. And this is another way you're being honest. You're saying, you know, let's let's postpone this discussion until, and then set a time until tomorrow or until later today, until we both have a chance to cool down. Or I'm really upset right now. I need some cooling off time, and then let's talk about it then. And being, sometimes as a parent, we feel like we have to take care of this right now.
right.
And sometimes that would be because of our emotions, that would not be a good choice. But let's, why don't you go to your room for a while, and I'll come back, and we'll talk about this. That it's perfectly all right to admit I need to get my emotions under control, and then we'll have a productive discussion.
Yeah, I love that because I think that really is so true. Because when you're at that point of uh, whether it's anger or being anxious or
Mhm.
whatever that is, it's like, okay, I need a moment. Let's talk about this, whatever, after dinner, or let me finish
Yeah.
this, whatever that is, getting that space, I think really does help. That's a great piece of
Mo-
advice there.
We need to move from our sympathetic nervous system to the parasympathetic. The sympathetic is the fight or flight. Parasympathetic is the rest and digest. This is when we do our best parenting. When we're calm and relaxed, confident, this is when we do our best parenting. We don't parent well when we're in the fight or flight mode.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that we touched on was about how do you use, the question of the day was, is it possible to use our emotions to reach our goals? How can we do that? I'm not sure I understand that question. I thought it was very interesting.
Okay. Well, first we learn from our emotions. So we sit with the emotion and we figure out. A question I love to ask myself is, why am I angry? What about that incident made me angry? And if I'm honest, I realize it made me feel insecure, or I felt threatened, or it made me jealous. And once you acknowledge it and then you think, oh, jealousy, you know, it's wrong for me to compare myself to other people. I should, I really want to be happy for her that she had that success. And you're able to change your thinking. Your thinking and your emotions and your behavior are all connected. And it goes both ways. Your thinking contributes to your emotions, and your emotions, of course, lead to your behavior. But it can also go the other way. Have you ever had a time when you were nervous and scared, but you took that power pose, stood up straight, shoulders back, put a smile on your face, and you began to feel confident? Your behavior can lead to a change in your emotions, and then your emotions lead to, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So be aware of that. Now, the other thing to remember is that emotions are energy, and we know energy can be converted. We can convert electric energy to power our kitchen mixer, so use the energy of that emotion. Make a change. Say, okay, I know what I need to do. Now I've got energy from this emotion and I'm going to do it. I'm going to use this energy to take those steps that move me towards my goals. I'm going to use this energy to become the calm, patient parent I want to be. So we
Oh,
learn from them and then we use their energy.
I
Convert.
love that, because it goes back to choices, that we get to choose what we're going to do. Because I think so often when we get in the middle of an emotional whatever, we feel like we just let all of our choices out the door. But that is the time where we have our choice to decide, like you said, what are you going to do with that anger? What are you going to do with that? Um, Something that makes you bristle, like, why do I feel this way? Oh, because they didn't give me the thing, so I'm a little jealous, or whatever that is. And you've mentioned a couple of times about being insecure, maybe feeling jealous, maybe being afraid. I think those must be kind of in that top tier of things that we feel a lot, right? Are those pretty common?
Yeah. I think I haven't met anyone who did not at times feel I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we may hide behind a false bravado, but I don't know, everyone, I think most of us just struggle to feel good enough. So, we can honestly reflect, okay, are there some areas where I need to improve? And maybe one of those areas is I need to stop all this negative self talk. I need to stop putting myself down.
Yeah, yeah. And I know you work with a lot of women, as do I, and I just see that so much. Women are so hard on themselves and deal with that insecurity and feeling less than. because we're always comparing. If we could ever get to the point where we did not compare ourselves to anybody else, imagine how freeing that would be. You've heard me say before, if every woman could see herself through God's eyes,
Yes.
not anybody else's, but just see themselves through God's eyes, we could wow the world. We could change the world, because then it's not about I'm not as good as her. It's like I'm just doing what I'm created to be and settling in that faith of who we are. But it's a simple concept, but it's a hard thing to do, to make that mental shift, that mind shift for that.
That is a golden nugget right there, Delinda. To see ourselves as God sees us, and to see others as He sees them.
Yes.
But just to accept, I'm on the Lord's errand. I'm serving Him, and then not worry what others think. Just doing our best, acknowledging we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes, but we're growing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I firmly believe that it's not a mistake if you learn from it.
Right. Well, I hope so, because we certainly make plenty of them, right? But that is a learning from. It's like, okay, what did I learn from that? Did it make me understand myself better? Did it help me understand other people better? Maybe a different way to do things. You think of all those people that, whether it was Henry Ford or the Edison with the light bulb, or Kentucky Fried Chicken guy, they just kept trying and kept going and kept doing, making all kinds of mistakes. I mean, I would have given up. I mean, I don't think I would have gone to 1,000 different people, to get, my Kentucky Fried, my special recipe out there. I find his story so fascinating. And same way with the light bulb. And, if I'm getting it right, Edison, somebody asked him, about his failures. And he said, no, every time I tried, I learned what didn't work.
So I know 10,000 ways that don't work.
Right. Exactly. So it is how we look at things. Yes. And I think that's with our emotions too. And that's what you've really pointed out this morning, is if we can figure out what sets off those emotions, and either avoid those situations or be able to ahead of time decide how we're going to react. If you have a certain trigger, and I think you said this earlier, if we know we have a certain trigger, then decide ahead of time when that happens, what are we going to do with it? What are we going to think about? Are we going to separate ourselves? Maybe that's what it is. You can feel that happens, like, I need to leave, or you just step away, or whatever that looks like.
Or just accept, that's just the way they are. I'm not going to take that personally.
Oh, well, right. In that kind of a situation, for sure. I found myself, I was probably in my 40s. I don't know. I could have been in my 50s. In a lot of these things, I've been a late learner. I wish I could have learned some of these things earlier.
Me too.
But I was sitting in, I began to notice that whenever I'd be like in a committee meeting or something like that, and there were, people giving their different opinions, and every so often I would just feel bristly, and I could just, and I had to begin to again, like, why? What's causing me to get bristly like that? And it's because I figured it out. Not a very good trait in myself, but it did help me when I learned it. Is that I did that every time I felt like I was beginning to have no control. It was a control issue. Like in a committee, maybe I was leading something, and then people would start, and I'd start getting a little. Nobody could tell, I don't think. Maybe they could, but I could feel the difference inside myself, getting that little bristly thing. It was about control. It's like, okay, Delinda, are you supposed to be in control of this anyway? And what makes you have to ask these questions? But it did help me learn. So now, as soon as that starts, it's like, okay, let it go, Delinda. This is not about you being in control. So.
That is a beautiful observation. Sometimes we need to remind ourselves the only person we can control is ourselves. Right. We can influence our children, our family members, but the only person we have absolute control over is ourselves.
Yeah.
And being aware of that, that's Brilliant, Delinda.
Well, it happened. That happens to be one of my issues that I work on. You see, so it was good for me to figure that one out. So, oh my gosh. Well, we're at the top of the hour. It's like, oh my gosh, I could talk to you. We could talk for hours, I'm sure.
You are a delight to talk with. Love
back to
conversing
you.
with you, Delinda.
Oh, Kathy Weaver, I'm just going to laugh at you. She says, I'm unfamiliar with that control word. Yeah, and that is one of those things that those of us who are leaders, I think we have to watch that in ourselves. It's like we want to lead, but we don't want to control, right? There's another whole morning of a concept.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So again, thank you so much for being here. You are just awesome, and I can't wait till the day I get to meet you in real person and give you a big hug because I just think you're wonderful.
We're going to make it happen.
It is going to happen. So, all right, everybody, thank y'all for being here. Be sure to reach out to EmmaLou. She would love to share. As you can tell, she has so much wisdom, so much knowledge and wisdom and ideas to share, and how to feel better about yourself for one, but how we can work with our families to build our families stronger. So, EmmaLou, one last comment you would like to share with the audience.
I invite everyone to join me. Let's make the world a better place by strengthening families.
I love
one family at a time.
Yes. The family is the stronghold. The family is the backbone of our country, in the world, actually. And God instituted the family for a reason, for us to be there for each other. And as we are strong in our families, we can be strong as we deal with the rest of the world. So I think it really starts there. So you are making a huge difference in that way. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. I love you very much. Lisa is going to be with you next week because I will actually be on the road and she'll be leading out next week. So remember that life is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of choice. So choose wisely. Choose how you're going to use those emotions that you're feeling so that it makes you a better person, but makes you relate better to the people around you. So God bless you, love you, and see you next week, everybody. Bye, EmmaLou. Thank you.
Bye.